Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Dana with the Data. Yes, honey, we are back in Fulton County, and I kind of took my foot off the gas pedal talking about Fulton County and of course Fanny Willis, but I'm pressing on that gas, and we're going to stay pressing on the accelerator until somebody in Fulton County is in handcuffs. That's Fanny Willis, Nathan Wade, Rob Pitts, and whoever else that needs to be in handcuffs. So let's get started. And before we do, guys, remember to share this video, like this video, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. So the FBI raided Fulton County's election office and seized over 700 boxes of the 2020 ballots. But here's what's crazy. Democrats just hired a massive team of lawyers to make sure nobody ever sees what's inside those boxes. This is a story of how Fulton County is doing everything in their power to cover up the biggest election fraud operation in Georgia history. So let's set the stage. Fulton County, Georgia, home of Atlanta, has been at the center of the election controversy since November 2020. This is a Democrat stronghold that Joe Biden narrowly won, triggering 2 recounts in years of allegations. But on January 28, 2026, everything changed.
Happening right now, the state election board meeting for the first time since that FBI raid at the Fulton County Elections Hub last month. 11 Alive's Gilad Malamed joining us live in Barrow County. Gilad, as this meeting continues, has the board discussed this raid at all?
Faith, the board hasn't had a discussion around the raid specifically right now, though they are discussing agenda items related to Fulton County. And one of those agenda items is an accusation first brought forward by a citizen of possible double voting by 20 people in Fulton County in the November 2020 election and January runoff. This complaint was initiated by a citizen, and the county's representation here responded to it saying double voting did not happen, and there was an issue, though, with transferring data to the new voter registration system. The board will also discuss a Fulton County poll worker conduct issue in 2020 and an agenda item labeled voter fraud. This meeting will continue tomorrow, where the board will give an update on the subpoena for 2020 election documents and ballots from Fulton County. The board first subpoenaed those documents in November 2024. Of course, the FBI is now in possession of nearly 700 boxes of Fulton County 2020 election records after seizing them during that raid last month. And I did ask board member Janelle King if there's anything she could share right now regarding that update on the subpoena tomorrow. She said she will be making a statement then. She expects other board members to make statements as well, but there was nothing that she wanted to share today about it. Live in Barrow County, Gilad Malamed, 11 Alive News.
Okay, still so many questions from that, Gilad. Thank you for bringing that to us.
At 6, a high-stakes showdown over Georgia elections is playing out right now. At issue, who controls voting in Fulton County? Atlanta News first reporter Abby Kasouris is at the Capitol tracking this story.
Yes, and the tension here is palpable. They're going on 8 hours of testimony for this state election board meeting. We did expect them to take up this issue about the FBI raid, but they have since put off the discussion to tomorrow. Still, the conversation around this, both in the meeting and here at the state capitol, continues.
It started here 3 weeks ago, January 28th. FBI agents swarmed Fulton County's election hub, hauling out hundreds of boxes of ballots and documents from 2020. The search warrant claims they're investigating defects in that election, one President Donald Trump has claimed was rigged against him.
I'm calling to order.
Now that raid is driving today's state election board meeting, their first since the FBI seized those ballots. A state trooper stands guard as the board hears cases of alleged election violations statewide.
We're concerned about what's going on.
Outside faith leaders are taking a stand against what they say they see coming, calling it an attack on voting rights.
We will not sit back and be silent while this latest egregious effort to rob us of our right to vote takes place.
This fight has consumed the state capitol, dominating the conversation for both Democrats and Republicans.
The Fulton County's voter rolls.
State Senator Greg Dolezal posted these videos on X showing what he calls proof Fulton's voter rolls littered with false addresses.
All Georgians' votes are being diluted by people illegally registered to vote at UPS stores, empty parking lots, storage units, homeless shelters that have been closed since 2017.
He wants the board to take over Fulton County, installing a state-appointed superintendent to control polling locations, voting machines, even line lengths. Democrat Stacey Evans is calling it voter intimidation by another name.
This is a distraction. It's a ploy to relitigate 2020, and even more so to take control and to intimidate voters going into the 2026 elections.
And here's what we're watching for next, because it could happen fast. The Elections Board does have the power to implement, if they find that Fulton County is not is not complying with state law, they can implement their power to put a temporary superintendent in place who would then conduct elections in Fulton County. And we're still waiting to see what they will decide. Live at the state capitol, Abby Kasouris, Atlanta News First.
The FBI conducted a massive raid on Fulton County's election warehouse. They didn't just take a few files. They seized 700 boxes of election records, ballots, tabulator tapes, ballot images, voter data, everything from 2020. And this raid didn't happen by accident. President Trump has been calling for the Republican Party to nationalize voting and take over elections in what he called 15 places. Fulton County was clearly the number one target. Fulton County Commissioner Chair Rob Pitts immediately filed a lawsuit against the federal government, demanding the return of those documents. But here's the question nobody's asking. If there's nothing to hide, why are they fighting so hard to get it back? But get this. The Democrats' response to this raid reveals everything you need to know about what's really going on.
By the way, did you see they raided the Fulton County storage house? And now the Democrats have hired a massive team of lawyers. They have the ballots. That should be no problem, right? They have the ballots. FBI came in and raided. They found plenty of stuff. And now they have the ballots. And the Democrats are fighting like hell, and I think it goes before a judge tomorrow, to not let anybody see the ballots. Why don't they want them to see the ballots after all these years? You know why they don't want? Because they cheated, that's why. They sent top lawyers down from New York to fight it. And I think it goes before a judge tomorrow sometime. They don't want them to see the ballot. They've taken the ballots, they have them now after years. They got an order from the court, signed order from a very respected judge, and now they're trying to stop anybody from looking. You know why? Because they cheated like dogs.
Think about that for a second. The FBI has the evidence. They executed a legal search warrant signed by a federal judge. And instead of cooperating, Democrats sent top lawyers from New York to fight the release of this information. If the 2020 election in Fulton County was legitimate, wouldn't he want the FBI to examine everything? Wouldn't he want to prove once and for all that there was no fraud? Innocent people don't hire armies of lawyers. But that's not what's happening. Instead, they're doing everything possible to keep those ballots sealed, separated, and hidden from public view.
According to the affidavit, the criminal investigation began after a referral from Kurt Olson, an attorney who played a pivotal role in President Trump's attempt to overturn the 2020 election, which he lost. and who the president recently appointed to investigate allegations of election fraud. The affidavit citing allegations that Fulton County failed to create a scanned image of each ballot, that some were scanned multiple times, and that some ballot counts were inconsistent. But some of the claims cited have already been investigated and disproven through audits by state officials and by several courts. And as President Trump sought to overturn the results of the 2020 election in Georgia, 2 statewide recounts certified that Joe Biden won. The Fulton County Commissioner warning the investigation might have national implications.
If they're successful here in Fulton County as the face of this effort, they will take that show on the road and go elsewhere.
The FBI raid drawing widespread scrutiny. Lawmakers questioning why Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard was seen here on the scene of the search. Gabbard telling Congress that she was there at the president's direction. The top Democrat on the Senate Intelligence Committee, Mark Warner, insisting that Gabbard inserted herself into a matter with no connection to a foreign threat, saying her presence was meant to lay the groundwork for baseless claims of foreign interference. And a federal judge appointed by President Trump in Michigan rejected efforts by the Justice Department to obtain voting data in that state. This is the 3rd time in recent weeks that the Justice Department has tried to obtain voter data in states across the country. It follows 2 similar rulings in Oregon and in California, George.
Yeah, these attempts to interfere with the elections are constant. Okay, Rachel, thanks for
Now, Fulton County did manage to get one small victory. They got the warrant affidavit unsealed. This is the document that explains why the FBI raided the election office in the first place. And what's inside the affidavit? What does it say? Well, let's break it down. Missing ballot images, digital scans of ballots that should exist but don't, duplicated ballots, the same ballots appearing multiple times in the count, irregularities with tabulated tapes, the machines that count votes showing suspicious patterns, chain of custody issues, ballots that can't be properly tracked.
And I'm just going to guess that exhausting is one word used to describe all of this, Chair Pitts.
That's a great word. It's annoying. It's frustrating. It seems like weekly, monthly, there's someone coming forward challenging the results of the 2020 elections. And I can repeat what I say. I mean, they've been audited, they've been reviewed, they've been looked at from top to bottom, A to Z, even hand counts. Mm-hmm. And in every instance, the results are almost identical, which means that what is this all about? We're still trying to figure that out. And even the other point, though, even if he had won Georgia, mm-hmm. he still would not have won the presidency. But he's fascinated, he's fixated on the 2020 elections and finding me, 11,780 votes. That's one of 2 numbers that we'll always remember in Fulton County. The other was, probably shouldn't bring that up, that's 28-3.
Would you play those numbers in the lottery, you think?
In the numbers, not the lottery.
Now, Fulton County Chair Rob Pitts calls all of this annoying and disgusting. He said these claims have been widely debunked and that previous investigations have no merit. But here's the problem with that argument. If everything was debunked, if there was nothing to find, why did a federal judge sign off on this raid? Federal judges don't authorize massive FBI operations based on a conspiracy theories. And he also said if Trump won Georgia, he still wouldn't have won the election. That's not true. Because out of those 15 other locations that the Trump administration is going to have the FBI investigate, Pennsylvania is on that list. Yeah. Philadelphia, Chester County, and other counties. That's number 2. But absolutely, Trump would have won the election if he had won Georgia. But I'm going to save that video, that title, that topic for another video, because we're going to have to break that down. Now, meanwhile, the Georgia State Election Board held their first meeting since the raid, and the tension in the room was palpable. And here's what most people don't know. Under a sweeping election law passed in 2021, The election board actually has no power to take over underperforming county election boards. The board voted down a similar push in 2023, but this time, with 700 boxes of evidence in FBI custody, things might be different. But Fulton County isn't going down without a fight. And they're using a very clever strategy, i.e., hiding behind civil rights organizations.
In our politics, and one right here in Fulton County. This is the latest development following the FBI's execution of a search warrant on the Fulton County election hub a few weeks ago. You're looking at video of FBI agents, evidence recovery teams working for a number of hours at the Fulton County election hub, recovering and seizing documents. Now, the NAACP, this is all according to the Associated Press, the NAACP and other organizations are now asking a judge to protect personal voter information that was seized by the FBI in that raid. The AP goes on to say that Georgia residents entrusted the state with their sensitive personal information when they registered to vote, and the January 28th seizure of ballots and other election documents from the Fulton County Elections Hub, the NAACP argues, breached that guarantee, infringed constitutional protections of privacy, and interfered with the right to vote. The motion by the NAACP and others asks the judge to, quote, order reasonable limits on the government's use of the seized data, and it goes on to ask the judge to prohibit the government from using the data for purposes other than the criminal investigation cited in the search warrant affidavit. So that would include prohibiting any efforts to use it for voter roll maintenance, election administration, or immigration enforcement. That motion, just filed by the NAACP and other parties to the motion. This is going to be the kind of case, this is going to be the kind of legal proceeding where you're going to see a lot of external parties working to get their motions before the judge here. You're going to see a lot of amicus briefs, and you're going to see a heck of a lot of litigation in the Northern District of Georgia, the federal court there, based out of Atlanta, where this case is before a federal district judge. We have been following it from the very beginning. We're going to continue to follow it right here on 11 Alive, and 11 Alive Plus is the likely many twists and turns ahead play their way out in the justice system and in potentially the ballot box, as this has become a key issue and a core issue of this midterm election year as we are now hurtling towards those May primaries.
The NAACP and other civil rights groups have asked the judge to protect voter information against misuse after the FBI seized the data. They're claiming this raid is an attack on voting rights. Well, listen, I don't understand if voting data is in the hands of the FBI. How is that a security breach? I think our voting information is in good hands in the federal government. Protecting voter privacy is important. But here's the sleight of hand they're pulling. They're conflating investigating election fraud with intimidating voters. The FBI isn't doing a door-to-door knock asking people who they voted for. They're examining ballots, tabulator tapes, and chain of custody records. These are administrative documents that should be transparent and auditable.
Democratic lawmakers unveiled a new voting rights bill at the state capitol today, and the state election board spoke out about the recent FBI raid at the Fulton County Elections Office. Fox 5's Deidre Dukes is live at the state capitol with the latest. Deidre?
That's right. Voter rights and the 2020 election took center stage today as both state lawmakers and the state election board focused on voter integrity.
This is a criminal investigation.
Weeks after the FBI raid on the Fulton County election hub,
because today, here in Fulton County, our votes are in the custody of the federal government.
Georgia Democrats are on the defensive.
I think there is a move to interfere with our elections in the state of Georgia, and this is just a step in that direction.
State lawmakers introduced a major elections bill Thursday. They insist voter rights are under attack at the federal level and say states must pass legislation to protect fair access for all voters.
There's a lot of instability. There's a lot of not knowing whether the state election board or the legislature are going to completely change our voting system from one year to the next.
They say the legislation would prohibit voter suppression, obstruction, and discrimination, and expand language access. It would also increase election transparency and give voters the power to challenge alleged discrimination in court.
A do-si-do dance was performed by lawyers in Fulton County to avoid access to the election documents and ballots.
As Democrats unveiled elections legislation at the state capitol, miles away in Winder, Trump-aligned members of the state election board went on record for the first time since federal agents seized hundreds of boxes of documents as part of an investigation into Fulton County's 2020 election.
And we're certainly not here because of some power trip to target Fulton County. We're here because our election has been in question for a long time. Well before 2020.
The January raid followed failed efforts by the state election board and DOJ to force Fulton County officials to turn over voter records.
We are not the bad guys. Those who break their oaths are.
Now, also today, the state election board voted to send Fulton County officials a letter ordering them not to destroy any of those seized documents once they're returned to the county by the FBI. At the state capitol, Deidre Dukes.
But is it interference to investigate credible allegations of fraud? Or is it interference to hire armies of lawyers to prevent the investigation? Let's zoom out and look at the big picture. Here's what we know for certain. Number one, the FBI executed a legal search warrant and seized 700 boxes of election records. 2, Democrats immediately hired top lawyers from New York to fight the release of this information. Number 3, Fulton County officials are begging a judge to keep the ballot sealed and separated. Number 4, civil rights organizations are trying to frame this investigation as voter intimidation. And 5, the state election board is waiting to see what the FBI finds before deciding whether to take over Fulton County's election. And here's what Trump said that cuts through all of the noise.
They've taken the ballots. They have them now after years. They got an order from the court, signed order from a very respected judge, and now they're trying to stop anybody from looking. You know why? Because they cheated like dogs.
Think about it. If you were accused of a crime you didn't commit and the police wanted to examine evidence that will prove your innocence, would you hire a team of lawyers to stop them? Of course not. I mean, you will hire a team of lawyers to protect you and your rights, but that's not what Fulton County is doing. What Fulton County is doing is hiring a team of lawyers to stop the federal government from examining and investigating voter fraud or voter elections in Fulton County. They're not acting like innocent people. They're acting like people who have something to hide. So what do we have? A hearing in Fulton County's lawsuit is scheduled for next Friday. The state election board meeting is March the 18th at Marietta City Hall. And somewhere in federal custody, 700 boxes of evidence are waiting to tell their story. The question is, will the American people ever get to see what's inside those boxes? Or will Fulton County's army of lawyers succeed in burying the truth forever? One thing is for certain. If they have nothing to hide, they're doing a terrible job acting like it. This is the biggest election integrity story in America right now. And the mainstream media is barely covering it. Why? Because they're focused on Epstein. So how about this, guys? Share this video. Follow me for updates. And let's make sure the truth comes out. Because in America, we don't hide ballots. We count them. Thank you so much for tuning in. Subscribe for more updates on Fulton County and Fanny investigations. Do you think Fulton County has something to hide? Please put your thoughts in the comment section. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel at The Real Dana. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.
Dana with the data. Dana with the data.